what I'm hearing.
And time. Time is usually the real limit.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they can ship with more time. Yes. But I'll take more memory.
More memory and more time. Do it,
Yes.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
One thing Microsoft and Sony both are doing, and you touched on this, is the motion movement. This bullet point I have is called out of control. So like, yes. Because, the simple fact is connect, move, obviously the Wii, the motion movement has taken over the industry. And I've always really wondered specifically with the first-person shooter genre, we're not seeing a ton of depth there with what you mentioned, kind of the Minority Report type of future. But in the immediate future, in the next 5 years, maybe 5-10 years, is motion controls, is this really what you guys see specifically to the first-person shooter genre as being something to complement the experience? Is it going to replace the control pad and the mouse and keyboard?
Well, we had the Killzone gun, and so you fire up Killzone, you get the gun, and you're like, yeah, this is cool. And then in about 15 minutes, you're like, oh, my arms are so tired. So then you take all the stuff out of the gun, and then you sit back, and you're like, yeah, this is not so bad. So there is, when you talk about it, it's like, oh, it's awesome, you get up, you go this, but the problem is it gets too damn tiring.
Mm-hmm. Tim's just old.
Yes.
I agree. Tim didn't mention that Resistance 3 is being bundled with the Sharpshooter. He's already pre-ordered his copy. I think there are people who really like playing that way. I personally, I like the controller. I like sitting there with the controller, and that's the way I like playing it. But there are a lot of hardcore fans who really like playing with the Move controller or the Sharpshooter, and I think it would be silly of us not to try to not to let people play the game the game the way they want to play it.
Yeah.
Where it's going to go in the future, I don't know. David Jaffe always says, I want to work on the holodeck, and I was you emailed this question out, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know if I want to be the holodeck. It seems like a lot of energy. Like,
Yeah.
I like relaxing and playing
Sure.
games. I don't,
Well, it depends. If you're
I
playing
could join
the
the
game,
army if I wanted to be out there doing it.
But if you're there for the story, a thing that we've all spoken about, there's I don't get up and dance around when I'm watching a movie with a great story, sometimes. But, so it depends on what you're coming to the experience for, I guess, right? What about motion controls? You kind of already touched on it.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's important to pay attention to the fact that little kids today, they get their parents' hand-me-down iPad or something, or their little DS, and they're learning how to play games with their fingers or a pen, and it's like a new generation that's not even that a controller is foreign to them, and having to deal with buttons and joysticks and things. So again, I'm probably jumping ahead 20 years, but I think that those expectations are really going to change the way people are making games. In the same way that I don't know, 10 years ago, all the first-person shooters it was taken for granted that you're playing with a mouse and a keyboard, and nobody could ever really make a good gamepad. I mean, maybe you started playing Doom with your little ASCII pad or something, but once you started playing with a mouse and keyboard, that was all you used. But then along came Halo, and then along came dual motion, dual analog, and now there's way more people playing with gamepads than there are with mouse, so it could definitely happen.
What are your thoughts on the motion?
I kind of share this out. 10 years ago, a lot of people were saying you cannot play FPS with a pad, and here we go today. Most of the sales for first-person shooters are on console with a pad, so it's hard to say because I think we are just at the start of the motion controls, and there'll probably be a lot of tests and experience in games that are going to change the way we play. But that's probably a long time in the future.
The consensus I hear from a lot of people, my thought on specifically with Kinect is making it a complementary type of experience, not the full, not the whole deal, so that if you are issuing a command or doing something, that it's kind of aware of that experience and it augments it enough to make it immersive, increase the level of immersion, but not interfere. I think that's what some people are hoping for, right?
Yeah, they need Couch Connect.
Couch Connect.
Because standing up, yes, I want to sit on my couch. Can it just figure out where my couch is? And I'm still waiting for John Carmack to do direct to brain.
Direct to brain.
Just plug that thing in, and then sit down.
Yeah. Well, But with the companies, Microsoft and Sony, pushing these, and like you said, it's a really good point with the next generation not being familiar. My kids, Angry Birds and the Wii for the most part. So, when they turn 15, or whatever, and start getting out there, it's going to be totally different. Has the industry thought about that, or is it something that's just going to happen organically, do you guys think?
I think it'll happen somewhat organically. I think, we were talking about these things, and I was thinking about at GDC last year, Valve was doing a thing on user testing, and one of the things they did was they do a lot of eye tracking to see where people are looking, and then at some point they actually hooked it up where they disengaged the reticle from the controller, and the reticle would follow your eye around. So you were moving and everything with the controller, but the reticle was your eye. And certainly I didn't get to play it. It was just a video, but it looked really cool. And it's like that's an interesting that's something that could definitely they could make a device that does that right now.
Huh.
And it's something I never would have thought of.
It's not the iPad. Sorry, I had to.
So yeah, I think it's just gonna evolve. But some of it, I do think like the Minority Report, and you see the how people will play Warcraft and things that way. It's hard to think about how that's going to exactly translate with shooters, where so much of it is about at least right now Twitch skills and how that is it just on an iPad, is it just being able to tap the fastest? I don't know.
There's an opportunity, though, for somebody to do something innovative and to say that this is, because I think the light bulb hasn't gone off yet. Like, how does this actually make things more awesome? So there's an opportunity, right, for one, maybe somebody here to figure it out. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We do not have a mic, so you have to be loud. But we have a few moments to take some questions. So if you have one, raise your hand.
Well, one of the big where he is, yeah. I mean, and we've always been like every game that we worked on, we have no feet. But at some point in the game, we have feet because there's always some new guy that says, "You guys never had feet," and I say, "Yeah, it doesn't work." And they're like, "Oh, you should try it." And it's just not going to work. So we put feet in, and then it doesn't work. Because you're really kind of a big. Well, right now you're a bunch of circles, but you're usually just a square. The biggest issue that a lot of people don't realize in first-person shooters is your field of view in real world goes from here to here, and now we're down to 90, 110, sometimes 80. Yeah, you'll make people throw up, and so that that right there alone is such a significant hurdle to get over. That long ago I made a box as a joke, and I didn't make a box. I had a box, and I cut a square and I stuck it on my head, and I walked around the office and I was like, "Yeah, this is what it looks like playing Doom." And I use it for like a training tool.
Sounds like a pre-order bonus to me.
That would be cool.
Awesome.
But the big problem is that FOV is a huge hurdle to get over.
It's funny you would mention the box. One of our animators uses that because he does all of our first-person stuff, and so he'll put it on when he's in our Movin suit, so he knows that it's in his field of view. He's actually trying to get me to bring it wear it today, but I had my daughter, and I couldn't carry that and her. So.
Daddy's totally normal.
One of the things in first-person shooters and multiplayer, I would want the player to be able to see their own shadow, because if a game has dynamic shadows, there's times where you cast a shadow, and if you can't see it, you don't know you're giving your position away. But an experience some people have had in feedback is that if they can see they see their shadow, and then they turn around and go, "Who's there?" Because they don't really think it's them, and their own shadow doesn't feel like their shadow in reality. So it's like somebody's creeping up on them all the time.
What about you?
Well, I think what we call the body awareness, so feeling your body. There are few games that started to try some things like Far Cry 2 or even actually Dark Messiah that we worked on. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement there, and it's true that when you really feel like you're in the body and the physicality of your movement and everything, it really kind of improves the immersion in the game. So I definitely think that's something that first-person shooter should push toward too.
Well, it's kind of like HDTV. It took a while before people started really converting to HDTV, and it's going to be a lot longer before they convert to Ifinity, I suspect. So it would be hard to really make that a driving part of your game, I think.
That brings up a good point. Actually, I'll get to your question next real fast. I just want something I didn't talk to you guys about with first-person shooters. Just quick, because we're running out of time. I want to get a couple more questions. But in terms of 3D,
Yes.
where do we stay? Is this the future? I mean, they got 3D phones, 3D everything, and it's a big push from everybody, obviously. Is it going to make a difference in the way we play games?
How many people actually play first-person shooters 3D here? That's your answer.